Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. This guy right here is Evil Mike, and I got a review for you. From Vault Comics, this is Barbaric Axe to Grind, issue number 2. It's written by Michael Moreci, art by Nathan Gooden, colors by Addison, and then letters by Jim Campbell. Second volume in Barbaric after the one-shot. Basically, it picks up right where the last issue left off, or with Owen, Steele, and Sorn, and they are fighting these orcs, trying to find Gladius. Gladius is their main mission. We find out that Owen and Gladius and Steele are directly tied, but basically it's a romp. These three versus these three kind of thing. It turns out to be more than just the three orcs. There's even a rider orc that shows up right over here, riding some kind of creature. I don't know, a orc monster. But basically, Owen and in his group, they kill all the orcs. They go to a town, supposedly that's controlled by Gladius. They're trying to get information. Owen's doing all the talking, and of course the town is favorable to Gladius, and they're not giving him any information. They even, tell him why. Axe kind of reminds them that they can't just outright kill these guys. That yeah, they're ugly, they smell, but they're not evil. That Owen in his curse can only kill. It has to be like chaotic evil, like it can't be neutral or whatever. While this is going on, Sorn basically states that they're not getting anywhere, that especially the way Owen's going about it. He kind of gets a little upset, and he sees this girl kind of, ushering off to him, so he goes off to get a piece of tail. He goes around the corner and finds out that she is some kind of magic wielder, and then she's got a plea for him. She's missing her son. Gladius had sent him off to... It's supposed to be a peace and rescue mission, but everything we've seen and heard from Gladius, he's absolutely evil, so it's probably not the case. But the book basically cuts off there, and it goes back to Sorn and Steele, and for good reason. They're still in the tavern, and they're, Sorn finally asks an important question, what's the deal with Owen, Steele, and Gladius? And so we get the whole backstory, pretty much kind of the origin of Owen and Steele, but we find out they were a group. We've seen this before from the one shot, but it was a wizard, Steele, Owen, and then their leader, which was Deadheart. She's in the bear motif. But they basically said that in the beginning they were barbarians. They did what barbarians do best. They plundered, they killed, they raped, they stole, they fucked, and it's pretty much all they did, and they were good at it. Eventually a war took place, and the king called them to go to arms for the king, fight for his glory and stuff like that. It was supposed to be a short war, and it ends up going on for weeks and months. But eventually the war kind of subsides, of course, with the help of the 3 different barbarians that were there and the wizard. Steele does mention that during the war at some point that the wizard left the group, probably getting, angry at the war, kind of fighting for nothing. Steele mentions kind of the same thing, that eventually during the war he realized that he was kind of fighting for nothing and not getting anywhere, doing all the fighting. But they kind of come into terms where Gladius comes in the story at the end of the war. They heard that there was some, on the outskirts of where they were ending the war, there were some villages that were being raided and basically burned down by some random orcs or something. So the 3 barbarians set out to go find him, because he supposedly had riches and stuff like that from all the places that he'd been robbing. But basically it spits them on a new journey that they were not ready for, because this orc is not like any of the orcs they have fought before. They just kind of find misery and death everywhere they go. Every village that they come across with Gladius, a part of it is just burned to the ground. Everybody's killed, staked, eaten, that kind of stuff, and he doesn't have any qualm on who he kills: women, children, men, old people, that kind of thing. But we do get to the clash with Gladius and the group finally. It's in an ancient tower, like an ancient castle they finally find, and at first it appears to be nobody there. They do find out that there's these weird that he has, like, he's experimenting, which looks like, but he's not. He's draining these other orcs, and basically he absorbs their power. That's why Gladius is so dangerous. It jumps back to present day, and we see what happens with Owen and this woman, and her magic. And basically, as she's talking, we see that she's kind of like ripped in half by something else. We find out it is an elemental, like kind of like God or something like that. But basically, and this thing literally rips that lady in half, and Owen all of a sudden kind of gets pissed off. This thing's stating that it's going to be Owen's guide or something like that. Owen doesn't know what to think about it, but he kind of states that he doesn't need or like him as a guide, especially because he just tore through an innocent person. But the elemental kind of explains that it's the only way that the elemental can enter the physical realm is they have to kill a person. And Owen kind of like, it goes back and forth, like, you have to kill a person, you have to kill a person. The comedy is always on point. I mean, Michael, but anyways, the elemental basically stating that Owen cannot go to Gladius, that Gladius is a different, person from the last time they fought, and he's stronger, he's more powerful, but basically stating that Owen doesn't know his own importance in fate and the realm, that kind of thing. And supposedly if Gladius gets, Owen's power, that it's going to be a game changer type of thing. Steel goes back to his story that he's telling Soren about Gladius back in the day, and then finally encountering Gladius, and basically they were not ready for him at all. He kind of makes a statement about that, you can take out like 10 or 15 orcs in a group and they're not that bad, but then you get somebody that is smart and leading them, and with numerous numbers, orcs become unstoppable. And basically at this point the group is quickly being overwhelmed by many orc. They are doing quite the killing, but basically they're getting overrun. Deadheart, their leader, eventually kind of sees this, and in an act of them trying to protect, she's trying to protect Owen and Steel, she basically runs after and tries to attack Gladius by herself. Eventually, he is just way more powerful than they knew, and he eventually just kills her, and not only that, but absorbs her power too, because that's what he does. They do end up killing Gladius, both Owen and Steel, but we find out that he has a backup plan, and I think he has a witch, and I think her name is Delox, or Doxon, Doxon, but the evil witch basically like resurrects Gladius, who was part of his like fail-safe if he ever died or something like that. But they basically killed him, left thinking he was dead. Yeah, we did it, and then basically the witch comes and resurrects him. And that's kind of the end of the story that Steel is basically telling Soren. At the same time, kind of Owen shows up after talking to the elemental, and he's kind of like, come on man, we need to go hunting, we need to go kill some orcs. They do go to the place that the original lady that got torn in half was, pleading Owen to go help, but they get here and find out that both the warring party and the peaceful party both died. It looks like Gladius had set them up against each other just to die, and maybe for some of his fun or convenience. But at the same time, we see that this Doxon evil witch is here waiting for them. It's part of the real plan. It was all a trap just to get Owen and Steel there. But Owen basically stating that the witch is not powerful enough by herself to take on Owen by herself, and she basically states that she's not by herself. That Owen needs to be more worried about his friends, and he turns around and basically Steel and Soren are surrounded by hundreds of orcs, or it shows about like 50, but you have to imagine it's a lot. The group seeing that they are vastly outnumbered, that they are trapped, even after Owen was kind of warned by the elemental. We finally see that Steel, and remember he is a vampire, that he does have a hidden power that he hasn't shown yet, but basically he goes into like vampire, like god mode, And that's kind of where the issue leaves off. Basically, you know, Steel stating that he's going to kill all the orcs. They do show a preview to the next issue, you know, a nice badass cover, I can say. But that's basically it. It is a great issue, man. The story, the comedy, everything we're getting from this. I mean, all the way back from the beginning of Barbarian, all this story is amazing. That's all I got to say. But that's my review. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought if you're reading this, if you passed it up. I know a couple people that passed it up and it still blows my mind. This book was phenomenal. I highly suggest you pick up the hardback, you know, version of Volume 1. It is out right now and it is not that pricey to get. They do have trade paperbacks as well that are even cheaper. So get out there, and if this story interests you, go get it. It's a great story. But that's all I got for you. I will have more reviews coming, and I will see y'all guys later. I hope y'all have a great day. Bah!